My uncle told me I was not a real man because I was afraid of blood, so I invited him to my first surgery as a patient. You would not believe how many people it took to catch him in the hospital. You ever get called out so hard by a relative that it lodges in your spine and just stays there? Like, you're washing dishes a year later and boom, there it is again. Like a ghost slap. That's what happened with my Uncle Randy. Uncle Randy, 54 million, aka Discount Rambo, is one of those men who thinks masculinity is a competitive sport. He drinks his coffee black, grills in the rain, and once growled at a squirrel because it looked like it had an attitude. You know the type, calls other men sport or chief, like he's stuck in a 1994 Clint Eastwood flick. I, 33 million, am, apparently, the anti-Randy. I'm a surgeon. I wear Crocs at work. I once passed out in med school watching a childbirth video and became a literal punchline at Thanksgiving. I'm okay with it, sort of. My family, less so. Now, to be fair, I do hate blood. Irony, right? It's not like I can't handle it. I just don't enjoy it. But if you tell your extended family that during turkey dinner the jokes write themselves, and Uncle Randy? Oh, he feasted. This guy, he said, slapping my back so hard my soul left my body, calls himself a surgeon but gets woozy at the sight of blood. Not a real man, just plays doctor with his fancy school coat. I laughed. Everyone else laughed. But I was looking at my mashed potatoes, wondering if anyone would notice if I stuffed them in his gas tank. The truth is that comment hurt, more than I'd like to admit. Not because I care what Randy thinks, okay, maybe a little, but because that attitude, it's been my shadow since I was 12. I was the sensitive one in a family of men's men. My dad was a contractor. My brother joined the military. I became a doctor. You'd think that would earn me some stripes, right? Nope. In our house, if you didn't bench press your body weight and chew your emotions into jerky, you were soft. And then there's my mom. Sweet woman. Passive as a houseplant. Every time Randy said something cruel, she'd chuckle nervously and say, "Oh, Randy, be nice." Like that ever meant anything. Anyway, let's flash back to last Thanksgiving, the one that really broke the dam. We're all at my parents' house. Randy's had 3 beers and a head start on being awful. He's talking about how his real man of a son, Brad, 29 million, spoiler, insurance salesman with gym selfies on lock, just ran his first Tough Mudder. "You should try one of those, Doc," he said to me across the table. "But you'd probably faint when they make you crawl through the electric wires." Cue laughter. My dad's wheezing. My cousin Kyle is already Googling fainting goat memes. I try to smile. That's when Randy adds, "Bet you wouldn't last 5 minutes in a real ER. Hell, I bet I've got a stronger stomach than you." That part, that's what did it. That was the moment I felt something crack. Not loudly, not visibly, but a tiny splinter of nope wedged itself right into my ribs. I didn't say anything then. I just chewed my turkey, nodded like a guy who's already playing 5 moves ahead. Because see, here's the thing. When someone challenges your manhood over dinner, you could scream. Or you could wait. Wait until fate gives you something better. Something surgical. So here's the thing about Randy. You can't actually win with him. He's one of those guys who weaponizes ignorance like it's a hobby. One-upping is his second language. You could say you rescued a busload of kids from a fire and he'd go, "Yeah, but were they American kids?" The man owns a t-shirt that says, "I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right," and wears it unironically. That's the level we're dealing with. Now, after that Thanksgiving debacle, I went home and stewed. Not the healthy, I'll let it go kind of stewing. The, I'm gonna remember this until I die variety. My girlfriend Abby, 31F, was the only one I vented to, and even she looked a little alarmed when I started muttering things like, "Scalpel justice." To be clear, I wasn't plotting revenge. Not yet. But let's just say I started fantasizing about it, casually, in a what if life was poetic kind of way. Anyway, life goes on. I go back to work. I'm chief resident at a surgical unit in Chicago, which sounds impressive until you realize it just means I spend half my life arguing with vending machines and sleep-deprived med students. Blood? Yeah, still hate it. Still deal with it. Because being afraid of something doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you get to do it with your teeth clenched and a change of scrubs in your locker. Fast forward 3 months, it's mid-February. Cold, gray, everyone's pissed at the sky. I get a voicemail from my mom. "Sweetie, call me when you can. It's about your uncle." Now, I'm not proud of this, but my first thought was, please let it be hemorrhoids. I call her. Turns out it's worse. For him. Better for the plot. Randy's got a hernia. A bad one. And guess who's been referred to our hospital for surgical consult? Yep. Now, I need you to picture the face I made when I saw that intake form. Imagine someone trying to suppress a laugh and a rage aneurysm at the same time. My colleague Paul, who knows exactly who Randy is because he's heard the rants, walks past and just goes, "You okay, man? You look like you just saw your bully's name on a karma invoice." And I had. Oh boy, had I. Now, here's the part I think about a lot. I could have recused myself, could have passed the case to literally anyone, but I didn't. Not out of spite, not even to prove a point. I stayed on because the idea of that man seeing me in scrubs with his fate in my hands, chef's kiss. So the day comes. Randy shows up for pre-op, and the moment he sees me in that surgical coat, glorious. He freezes like he just walked into an intervention, mouth slightly open, the wheels in his head grinding against each other like rusted gears. "No way," he says, blinking. "You're the doctor?" I smile. "Big, professional, dangerous." "Yes, Uncle Randy," I say. "Doctor Wolf, actually. I'll be assisting with your hernia repair. Don't worry. Shouldn't be too much blood." He goes pale. I swear to God it took 4 nurses to convince him to sign the final consent form. One even had to explain that refusing surgery over personal beef wasn't going to magically fix his intestines. And then the fun began. Okay, so Uncle Randy is now officially on the schedule. Friday morning, outpatient. Nothing dramatic. Just a laparoscopic hernia repair. In and out, couple small incisions, no drama. Unless, of course, your entire personality is based on pretending you don't bleed like everyone else. Now, I'm not the primary surgeon, thank God for hospital policy, but I am the one walking him through the prep, which means he has to look me in the eye and let me explain how I'll be monitoring his vitals. Anesthesia induction, the whole pre-op procedure. You know, like the cowardly, blood-fainting, not a real man he once roasted over mashed potatoes. You ever seen a guy try to maintain alpha energy while signing a waiver in a paper gown? It's tragic. Randy looked like a pissed-off raccoon wearing someone else's skin. He wouldn't make eye contact, just stared straight ahead like if he didn't blink, the surgery wouldn't happen. Kept muttering stuff like, "Didn't know you were still doing this stuff." And, "Guess they'll let anyone in medical school these days." I smiled, politely, said things like, "You'll be in excellent hands," and "We'll take great care of you." But inside, I was vibing, not maliciously, just immensely satisfied. Years of those casual jabs, all those soft man jokes, and now I'm adjusting his IV drip while he sweats like a roast pig under a heat lamp. My favorite moment, right before he gets wheeled in, he grabs my arm, not hard, but firm, and whispers, "You've done this before, right?" I lean in, smile real soft. Say, "I've done this hundreds of times, Uncle Randy. Try not to faint. That's my thing, remember?" His eyes went wide. Beautiful. Now for context, the surgery went perfectly. Of course it did. No complications. No drama. We fixed the hernia, closed up, and got him into recovery with minimal fuss. But guess what? He panicked coming out of anesthesia. Like full-blown, "Where am I? What's in my stomach?" Chaos. Tried to yank out his IV, shouted something about medical experiments, and had to be gently restrained by the nursing team. I wasn't even in the room when it happened. I was in the hallway with Paul sipping coffee when the code got called. And when I poked my head in, my guy was flailing like someone dumped a wasp in his sheets. Paul muttered, "Dude's coming out like a conspiracy theorist," and I nearly snorted espresso up my nose. Randy saw me and froze. Just stared, then said, "Oh my God, you did this to me." Loud, like horror movie loud. Which, okay, technically true. But also, "Calm down, Rambo." We reassured him. Got him stable. He eventually passed back out from the meds. But the nurses? Oh, they were not subtle about it. "He's the worst we've had this week," one said. Was this guy a bounty hunter or something? Nah. Just an uncle with a fragile ego and a soft underbelly. Literally and metaphorically. And this is where things got weird. Because when he fully came to later that day, he refused to believe the surgery happened. Dead serious. Said he didn't remember it, so clearly they didn't actually do anything. Claimed it was all theater. And I was probably lying to make him look bad. Make him look bad. "Sir, you passed out shirtless screaming, 'Don't let them put eggs in me.' You did that on your own. But I held it in. I kept it cool. Because this was just the setup. The punchline. That came a day later when Randy tried to leave the hospital early and set off the security alarms. If that hit a little too close to home or just gave you unholy levels of satisfaction, go ahead and hit that like button. Drop a comment if you've ever had a Randy in your life. And hey, subscribe if you want more family feuds, poetic payback, and me trying not to lose my medical license in the process. Seriously, you're going to want to see how this one unfolds. Update 1. Okay, wow. First of all, y'all are unhinged in the best way. I did not expect that many comments. Some of you really came in hot with the "karma is a scalpel" energy, and a few of you straight up wanted blood. Respect. Second, yes, Randy did try to flee the hospital. Yes, it was exactly as stupid as it sounds. No, I didn't get video. HIPAA, y'all. But I'm telling you, if I had, it'd be trending on TikTok under "Man Loses Battle with Automatic Doors." South. Here's what went down after the great hernia denial. Randy wakes up in post-op, insists we didn't actually do anything to him, claims the scar is probably just tape or some Hollywood makeup BS, calls one of the nurses sweetheart, and tells her he knows when he's being punked. She replied, "Cool, want me to bring Ashton Kutcher in with your antibiotics?" Absolute legend. Now keep in mind, this is 24 hours post-op. He's not supposed to stand without help, let alone walk. But Randy decides he's taking back control and tries to check himself out AMA, against medical advice. Except he doesn't go through the actual process. He tries to sneak out in a hospital gown. This grown-ass man with 2 IV marks, a healing incision, and a confused expression unplugs himself, puts on a hoodie over his gown, and starts limping down the hallway like he's in Ocean's 11, Hernia Edition. Problem is, he doesn't know about the security doors. You can't just walk out of post-op without scanning a badge, so when he gets close, boom, alarm, loud, lights flashing. One of the interns spills their coffee. 2 nurses sprint out of nowhere like it's a hostage situation. And me? I'm in the break room with Paul again, eating yogurt. When the call comes over the speaker, Paul deadpans. "Bet that's your uncle." I say, $10 says he's trying to escape. We walk over, and there he is, cornered near the vending machines. One ass cheek peeking out the back of his gown, arguing with a 22-year-old nurse who looks like she just survived NAM. "I'm a veteran," he says. Randy was in the Coast Guard for like 6 months in the 80s. "You can't keep me here." They gently, but firmly, wheel him back to his room. I walk in 10 minutes later, and he looks at me like I'm the villain. "You set me up," he hisses. I shrug. "You set off a code pink trying to escape in Crocs and compression socks. I think you did that all by yourself, champ." He didn't laugh. Obviously. Now here's where things really started to snowball. Because Randy, like the tactical genius he is, decided that rather than thank the people who just saved him from a possible infection and a lawsuit, he was going to call a family meeting. Yup, this man called my mother and told her I was abusing my position to humiliate him, and that I used the hospital like a stage for my revenge fantasy, which is bold, especially coming from someone who asked me, mid-panic, "Are you sure you're not still mad about Thanksgiving?" "Oh, I'm sure, Randy." So now my mom's texting me things like, "Maybe you two need to talk it out," and "Randy says you were unprofessional." Meanwhile, my dad texted me, "Did you really let him bleed out on the floor?" Which, what? No, Dad. That's not how hernia repairs or hospitals work. And then, because the universe loves me, I get a call from hospital administration. Guess who filed a formal complaint? Yup. Guess who had no proof and accidentally CC'd his own son instead of legal? Also, yup. So let's talk about Randy's complaint. He really thought he did something. Sent this formal grievance to hospital admin accusing me, the guy who literally saved his screaming manhood from internal rupture, of emotional harassment, professional misconduct, and personal vendetta via medical procedure. Which is impressive, honestly. Man's been out of anesthesia for 30 hours and he's already inventing phrases like vendetta via medical procedure. If delusion was a sport, my uncle would meddle. Now here's the beautiful part. Randy meant to CC his complaint to Randy Jr., his son Brad, who probably shares 90% of his DNA and all of his insecurities. Instead, he CC'd me, like the actual doctor he's accusing. I opened this email during lunch. Paul's across from me, eating soup, and I nearly choke on a grape. I read it aloud. It starts with, "To whom it may concern, I regret to inform you that Dr. Wolf, my nephew, unfortunately, used my vulnerable condition as a chance to publicly embarrass me." And it just goes downhill from there. Paul goes, "He actually typed 'unfortunately' in a medical complaint?" Yup. And he ends it with, "This will not stand. I have rights. I am a taxpayer." I send no reply. I forward it to compliance. Per policy, they respond within the hour. "Thank you, Dr. Wolf. We'll handle the matter. Please refrain from contacting the patient directly." Cool. I wasn't planning on sending him a fruit basket anyway. But what happens next? Oh, buddy. See, the admin does look into it. They pull the records. They interview the nurses, anesthesiologist, even the poor intern who witnessed Randy's ass crack during his hallway escape. Turns out, filing a complaint while also being a hospital security risk is not a great combo. But Randy didn't stop there. The man doubled down. The very next day, he called a local news affiliate. Yep, the man who once told me men who go on Twitter need therapy is suddenly talking to Channel 7 about medical overreach and family trauma in the healthcare system. He gives them my name, full name, and accuses me of surgical bullying. Which, I'm sorry, what is that? A sitcom? Grey's Anatomy, Revenge Edition? My department finds out fast. My chief of surgery, Dr. Esteban, stone-faced, terrifying, has probably performed surgery with jazz playing, calls me into his office. He just holds up his iPad, playing the news clip. There's Randy, looking like a man who thinks YouTube comments are a valid legal defense. You know this guy? Esteban asks. I nod. He's my uncle. He tried to flee the hospital in a gown and filed a complaint because I did my job too professionally. Esteban doesn't blink. You're fine. But I forwarded this to legal. This might get fun. And oh, did it? Because while Randy was busy trying to make me TikTok infamous, he forgot one tiny detail. We keep everything. Every moment of pre-op, every waiver he signed, every outburst logged, every hallway dash, every security flag, every time he called a nurse sweetheart and asked if he could opt out of anesthesia because real men take pain like a lesson. Our hospital lawyer calls me 2 days later, laughing. Wolf, she says, we're not only clearing you, we might actually issue a trespass order. Y'all, a trespass order for my uncle, who still insists he wasn't even really operated on, despite the scar and the stitches and the discharge papers. He thinks this is still a game, but the game is changing because guess who finally called me? Brad. Randy Jr. himself. And what he told me? That's when the real crack started forming. South Brad calls me. Now, keep in mind the last time Brad and I had a real conversation, he was trying to convince me that drinking raw eggs was ancestral strength. So you'll understand my skepticism when his name popped up on my phone. I let it go to voicemail. He calls again and again. Finally, I answer with a classic, let me guess, you're suing me too? But nope. Brad sounds tired, like existentially tired. Says he needs to talk. Says it's not about the surgery, which is already a red flag because everything with the Randys is about the surgery now. We meet for coffee. Neutral territory. I expect hostility. What I get? Brad slumps into the seat like someone just unplugged him from the Matrix. First thing he says, I think my dad's lost it. Not where I expected this to go. Turns out Randy's been going full tilt. Posting rants online, telling neighbors I'm part of the woke medical cabal, sent a mass text to the entire extended family that included an all-caps line about nepotism surgeons. Brad sighs. He thinks you implanted a tracker in him. I choke on my latte. He keeps checking his scar with a flashlight. Brad continues. Says it tingles near Wi-Fi. Y'all, this man is tracking himself like a human Apple AirTag. But here's the kicker. Brad's over it. All of it. He starts venting about how his dad's always made everything about being a real man, about how he's tired of pretending it's not exhausting, about how I was always the one who fixed things quietly while Randy performed masculinity like it was dinner theater. Then he drops the nuke. I went through the home office, Brad says, found the insurance paperwork. Turns out he filed for surgery coverage before your consult. He knew. He just wanted to spin it. I just stare at him. You're telling me he faked being shocked that I was the surgeon? Brad nods. Guy knew exactly what hospital he was going to. Even bragged that you'd probably wipe his butt during recovery. I nearly passed out from the rage blackout that followed. Now here's where it gets delicious. Brad sends me screenshots of the group text. Yup, the family group text that I'm not in anymore. Apparently, after my mom begged everyone to keep things civil, Randy went full scorched earth, called me a betrayer of blood, said I was the reason this country's going soft. Guess who responded? Aunt Carol. Sweet 68-year-old Aunt Carol. She replied, Randy, you've had 5 surgeries and cried during all of them. Grow up. Then cousin Mikey jumped in with a gif of a fainting goat. Then my mom left the chat. Then Randy accidentally sent a selfie of his healing scar with the caption, still doesn't look right, to everyone. Brad says, we're done pretending, man. He needs help, but I'm not going to help him lie about this. So guess what he does? Brad calls the hospital admin, voluntarily. Says he's willing to testify that Randy faked surprise, exaggerated trauma, and has been spreading misinformation. Just like that. No drama. Just, let's end this. I hang up the phone that night feeling like I just watched the first domino fall in a house that's been standing on ego and duct tape for 50 years. And it's not done falling. Because when Randy finds out Brad flipped, oh boy, update 2. South. A lot of you asked, what's Randy gonna do when he finds out Brad flipped? Well, turns out, the answer was drive across town with a neck pillow and a vengeance complex. Because yesterday, I come home from a 10-hour shift, half dead, dreaming of pad thai and silence, and who's standing at my front door? Uncle freaking Randy, in a tracksuit, holding a plastic grocery bag, looking like a man who just got rejected from a bootleg superhero audition. I freeze in the hallway, like a raccoon caught mid-trash can dive. He hasn't seen me yet, and for a second, I seriously consider backing down the stairs and moving cities. But nope, he turns, makes eye contact, and the first thing he says, you betrayed the bloodline. I blink. What? You think you're better than us? He snarls. You think wearing a lab coat makes you God. I should have walked away. but I was tired and done. So I look him dead in the eye and go, "You cried when they shaved your thigh. Don't come at me with bloodline nonsense." Boom! He loses it. Starts yelling. Neighbors peek through blinds. Someone's dog barks. He's ranting about family and honor, and how even Brad turned on him. And then, he reaches into the grocery bag. Y'all, I flinched. Thought he was about to pull out a lawsuit or a ferret or something equally deranged. Nope, it's a Ziploc bag with a piece of gauze. Used gauze. "I kept this," he says, holding it up like a cursed talisman. "To prove what you did to me." I take a step back. "Randy, you're holding hospital trash." "It's evidence," he growls. "It's biohazard," I reply. And then, because apparently the gods of petty revenge weren't done, the security guy from my building shows up. Gary, legend, former TSA agent, mustache like a paintbrush dipped in judgment. He says, "Sir, do you live here?" "Randy, I'm his uncle." "Gary, not what I asked." I'm silent. Just nod toward the bag of gauze like, "You seeing this?" Gary escorts Randy out. No drama, just firm, unshakable mustache energy. And Randy, screaming, "I'll see you in court," while his paper grocery bag rips halfway down the sidewalk. I go inside, lock the door, collapse on the couch. 3 hours later, Brad texts me. He tried to show Mom the gauze. She screamed and hung up. Chef's kiss. And that, my friends, is where we're at. Hospital cleared me. Family's a wreck. Randy's probably yelling at a CVS manager as we speak. And me? I slept like a damn baby. South, after the Ziploc gauze incident, which is what I've been calling it in therapy, you'd think Randy might take the L, right? Ha. This man went full Facebook, posted a status that began, "I'm not naming names but," and proceeded to absolutely name me in paragraph 3. Claimed I violated Hippocratic oaths, humiliated a veteran, and, my personal favorite, used medical authority to emasculate a family elder. That one? Chef's kiss. Someone get him a book deal. But what really hit me wasn't Randy's nonsense. It was the silence from everyone else. My parents, not a word, no texts, no, "He's crazy, we're sorry." Just static. So I made a decision. I cut them off. Not in a dramatic post your block list way. Quietly. I deleted the group chat. I stopped checking their socials. I canceled Thanksgiving plans and sent one final message to my mom. "I'm done being the joke. Call me when you're ready to be my family again." She read it. Never replied. Fine. Now here's where things turn. A month later, I get invited to speak at a medical conference. Topic: Navigating family dynamics as a healthcare provider. And during the Q&A, someone asks, "Have you ever had a personal conflict affect your professionalism?" And without naming names, I told the story. The blood jokes, the hernia, the hallway escape, the gauze. Whole room laughed. Some cried. A nurse came up afterward and said, "I wish I had your self-control. I would have stitched him shut with 'Not a real man' tattooed across his chest." It was healing. It was weirdly healing. And then, 2 weeks after the talk, I got a letter. Not from Randy, from Aunt Carol. Handwritten, in cursive. It said, "I heard about what you said at that conference. You were kind. Kinder than I would have been. And you were right. We let him bully you for years. I'm sorry. If you ever want to spend Christmas somewhere safe, my door's open." I cried, like a moron, on my porch, at 11 p.m., holding a letter that felt like a lifeline. So yeah, Randy's probably still ranting somewhere. My parents? I don't know. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe they won't. Brad and I text memes now. Aunt Carol sent me a pie. And I, for the first time in years, feel light. Because here's the truth. It wasn't about blood. It was about finally making them bleed a little metaphorically, the way they made me leak slowly for years. And now I'm just a man. With a scalpel, and peace, and a doormat that still says, "No uncles."